Hey there guys, welcome back. Maverick here today with another episode of Isekai Meikyuu de Harem. Penultimate episode now, so 2 episodes left until we get to the end. I do think, according to calculations, it should be around the time when we see the new party member. Actually, I do think it's going to be it. I recall saying on Twitter like something about a preview, and I do think this episode is going to be talking about her, which kind of makes sense, especially if you take into account what happened at the end of last episode, where Michio and Roxanne kind of sort of got their hands on a skill crystal, right? So I've said before that the RPG elements, the MMORPG elements of this particular series is it's hugely influenced by it. They keep the gamification aspect all the way to the end, and so this is really kind of like a slotted crystal kind of thing, right? If you guys recall from very early on, Michio has shown the ability to see like empty slots on weapons, so this is where these skill crystals come in, right? And I think talking about this anymore would be kind of spoilery-ish. We should be getting the full explanation here anyways, so let's just jump right into the episode. Alright, let's begin in 3, 2, 1, play. Yeah, it's literally called a skill slot, so it's not too hard to imagine this. Right, but unlike many other MMORPGs where they just allow the player to directly slot the skill crystal into a weapon, in this world setting, apparently you need to get a blacksmith in order to do it. Which, if that was actually like a real thing in MMORPGs, would be pretty dang tedious. I feel like that is way too much stew for 2 people. Yeah. So actually, I'm thinking like, have there been some games? I'm sure there were games before where you need a specific class in order to do this sort of like merging and stuff. But I think it's relatively rare. Like I said, it really, if we're looking at this from a game perspective, it really, how can I put it? It's really restricting to the player, right? You want to have this feeling of, oh yeah, I got some pretty awesome loot, and I can just upgrade my weapons, upgrade my equipment immediately, right? There is that gratification aspect to it. So typically for power-ups or whatnot, it doesn't require you to have a specific player interaction for this. Although, I guess, think about it, if they were going to do it, it might be more like an NPC based kind of thing, right? You would have an NPC, like maybe you need to take your equipment and your money and whatnot to an NPC to complete it. In this aspect here, they're sort of like viewing blacksmith as a class, as a player, as a playable class as well. And you can just imagine all the problems that would ensue, right? You literally, like, if you have to even find a blacksmith in order to do the upgrade for you, like, that is just so darn tedious. It's time for a new one. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, right? And it kind of gives you a little bit more insight into Roxanne's character. Like this is more akin to like the sort of like chivalry spirit or samurai spirit, if you will. The warrior the warrior spirit, like the idea that if their master dies, their retainers, should burden the responsibility, right? I guess less so with chivalry, but definitely part of the sort of like Bushido code of old was that you being disgraced like this, allowing your master to die, would result in yourself also having to commit suicide as well, right? Exactly. And I feel like this is also a sort of like probably call out to the readers at this point by the author. Like the author is basically saying, this series, don't expect it to be like about saving the world or defeating the Demon King or even like conquering a labyrinth, right? Michio is here to enjoy life. That's it. Ah, come on, dude. And don't worry, that scene will happen probably before the end of this. Probably before the end of this season. Don't worry, Roxanne is understanding like that. Kind of makes sense. Like, if you are like a skilled artisan, you would typically be able to, get yourself out of the situations that would typically lead to slavery, right? Yep, here we go. I think that works out well for Alan as well, right? And he still has the opportunity to make a potential sell. Although actually, thinking about it, I think this also is a little bit different from this is actually also a little bit different from how I remember. I recall Alan being a little bit more reluctant to bring her in because she hasn't really been fully trained yet. Yay, Shirley. Right, she's not a lolly, okay, guys? This is her voice? This is the voice that they're going with? Alright. And don't worry, we're gonna explore this entire setting system more later. Mhm. Thinking things through, right? Again, one of the reasons why I like Michio so much is because, already he's analyzing all of this stuff, right? Oh, here comes the appeal stage. Basically, Michio's question there was why are they so desperate to sell themselves to Michio, right? Oh, okay, they go into this. So basically, Roxanne is because she doesn't have the identity skill, right? So so she thinks that Sherry is a lot older than she is saying, or seems, or looks. I don't know, like, why Alan always has this like evil guy look on him. I mean, he's a pretty stand-up guy. Okay, so that beep was a sex slave, and that beep was probably virgin. Okay. Yeah, so he's saying that here, right? So originally, I think in the novels, he was more reluctant to bring her out because from Alan's point of view, if he had a little bit more time to train her, he would have been able to sell her for a higher price. Because he equips the 30% off, and it only works when he's buying like more than one item, like two items at the same time. That is such a bargain. Hey, welcome to the party, Sherry. That's actually kind of important. More experimentation time. Just go with it. Right, and with the addition of Sherry, we actually are able to know a little bit more about the norms and customs about this world. Because Roxanne, she's kind of like a little bit out there. Like she's great and all, but she's a little bit more out there in terms of her abilities and in terms of her perception of this world. Whereas Sherry, she's very smart. She's street smart and book smart as well. He's just like change the topic. This is a part of the story, or not story, the setting that I kind of don't really understand. If you're working together with allies, I would presume actually using a spear would be better than a hammer, a war hammer. Sherry's just like, what is life? What is reality? Is this a dream? uh, all right, see you guys after this. Hey, let us all give a big warm welcome to Sherry. And 11 episodes in, we finally get the second party member. I told you guys this was gonna be a slow burner, right? Especially since they kind of really did go through the entire, like, honestly, even in the manga, or I guess maybe not necessarily the manga, in the light novel, it was stretched even longer. So this is already relatively fast. And as expected, we are going to be having some pretty interesting sexy times in the next episode, I do believe. I mean, come on, they're not going to end this without having another scene, right? So let's just leave it at that. All right, so let's talk a little bit about Sherry, right? Obviously, we will be learning more about her, but considering that this is nearing the end of the season already, and I highly doubt that there will be a second season, I guess I can sort of like dive a little bit deeper into her personality without spoiling too much, because we only have one episode in the next episode. How much can we really learn about her personality? And not to mention, like, I feel that even within this episode, even with the little interaction that we had at the end of this episode, that should be enough to already tell you a little bit about what her personality is and what she brings to the party, right? So as I said, Roxanne, she's a great girl. She's very loyal and whatnot. But in a lot of ways, I feel like you can just consider her like a dog, right, if you will. I mean, they are. She is sort of like anorthorized, right? Because she's what was it? A wolfkin? I kind of forgot like what exactly she was, but you can kind of consider her like a dog, right? Like very loyal, very obedient, sometimes kind of dumb. I don't really think Roxanne is dumb per se. It's just that she has her own unique view on this world of Michio, of fighting, and so on and so forth, right? So she's not really the best when it comes to trying to explain things about this world or knowing what is the norm, right? What is the social norms of this world and so on and so forth. Whereas Sherry is quite opposite to her in that regard. Sherry is very very analytical and logical, which we will see continuing on. And like I said, we already see a hint of that in this episode where she's trying to work things out. She clearly rejects myths and whatnot, and she has her own theories and so on and so forth. It's quite similar to Michio in a sort of way, but I would even argue perhaps even more so than Michio. Sherry, like, don't underestimate her just by looking at her. She's kind of petite and short and all that, and she has this high voice. But no, she is quite the calculating girl. That's all I can say here. And so it will bring a good balance to the party, right? I think I recall that there are some people who don't quite like her personality, especially when compared to the ever loyal Roxanne. Like Roxanne's the type of girl who Michio could order her to jump off a cliff and she'll do it without hesitation, right? She's that kind of girl. Whereas with Sherry, she's definitely the kind of why are you ordering me to do this? I don't want to do this. This makes no sense. Why would and that kind of more like that kind of a girl. So it really depends on what you like and what you don't like. But we will, like I said, we will see more of that continuing on, as well as considering the entire thing started with trying to get a blacksmith. I think might be slightly spoilerish, but considering that all that they're trying to do already, with Michio trying to work out, all the different conditions in order to become a blacksmith, etc., etc., I think it's not that far-fetched to reach a prediction at this point, even blindly, that eventually Sherry will become a blacksmith, right? And then we can do all the fun stuff that blacksmith does, like crafting and skill crystal merging and so on and so forth. And not to mention that the actual like experimentation stage is also quite fun as well. Now, one thing I gotta say with Sherry's design though, like it's quite unique, right? But I think the most thing that to me, like, the most over the top thing about her design is definitely her sort of like skin tights that she's wearing, right? And to have the lines actually run down for her entire body. It almost looks like she's naked, but not naked at the same time, right? It almost seems like she's not wearing anything underneath her, underneath her shirt and her short pants. But in actuality, there is a bodysuit that honestly looks perhaps even more erotic than it would have been if it wasn't there, right? So yeah, quite the sneaky kind of design by the author and the artist here. But that's, I guess. I mean, I'm not complaining. And again, I think I've heard some discussions before saying that, this is another lolly character and whatnot. You gotta fit the tropes. I mean, she's, as I said before, they already clearly declare her age, and not to mention, I would say she's even much wiser beyond her age. So you don't have to worry about that kind of stuff. Let's see what else here. I think there, like I said, there are a little few things that maybe they did not completely mention, like for instance. I mentioned before how Alan, was kind of sort of reluctant to bring Sherry out right this moment because he feels that, for him, he probably feels that give him another 2 weeks or a month and he can sell Sherry for a much higher price, with proper training and all that. Because it is a sort of like quality of goods kind of situation. Now, obviously, Michio doesn't care, right? He cares more about, he's from the modern world, and he doesn't really treat slaves like slaves anyways, right? As we can see, Sherry's expectations of what a slave is supposed to do versus, how Michio is going to treat her, similar to Roxanne. And so if it was any other owner, like, maybe this would have been a big deal for her not to have been properly trained yet, but here, it's just like, hey, that just provides a nice little discount here, right? And the fact that Michio has those eyes, has the skill as well, being able to see directly with her real age, that's why he is also able to relent on the actual price, because he knows that Alan is telling the truth here. It all just worked out great for him. Let me think here. So, talking a little bit about, like, Roxanne's new position, or her take on the situation. Like, I don't want to go too much into it, but all I can say is that, I think I said before at the very first beginning episode, this world the slave system is quite fleshed out and quite detailed here, right? This is not just this is not just some sort of like convenience thing, for the plot, and for Michio to be having these slaves or whatnot. No, this is a pretty accepted norm in this world. There are various rules and sort of like standards, code of conduct, whatever you want to call it, regarding slavery and the usage of slaves and whatnot, and how they are treated, their hierarchy and their prospects, so on and so forth. And so we'll see, with Michio actually getting his second slave now, we will be seeing a little bit more of those dynamics as well. Which is quite interesting, honestly, in a lot of ways, and also shows us a little bit more to Roxanne's side and Roxanne's personality as well, right? Oh yeah, and speaking of Roxanne, right? We the beginning of the episode with the entire warrior thing. I think I said all I wanted to say at that point, but you can clearly see like Roxanne more so than a slave. Like even if there wasn't this kind of like slave contract or whatnot, I think that if she makes the sort of like pledge to her master and so on and so forth, like even as just considering like a feudal system, a lord and his retainer, Roxanne will probably be doing more of the same thing as well, right? Basically living her life for her lord and master. So in a sense, you kind of get the feeling that this entire slavery thing is just kind of like, it's whatever. It's basically what I'm saying here. Even though it is like a major thing of this, but like even without that, if they did enter into that kind of a contract or that kind of relationship, then it's akin to slavery anyway. So don't get too hung up on like the word slavery or whatnot, because I'm sure some politically correct people would take offense to that and so on and so forth. Although probably those people would have long left the show already. Alright, so anyways, I don't want to continue rambling on. Like I said, next episode, time to equip Sherry with some gear and get to know each other more intimately, right? Before we get to the big finale. So, with that being said, I will hope to see you guys next week as well. And, yeah, that's it for now. See you guys next time. Bye-bye.